Hi, Danny. How you doing? Great logo. Interesting. I think that inverting the I is really interesting, and it creates a really interesting conceptual um, development right there. So that's interesting. You may consider adding color or something to make that a little bit more visually engaging, giving the subject matter and the target audience. I think expectations might be to have a little bit more of a visually engaged logo. I think this is great. It just maybe needs in need of a color. So think about that. Just think about embellishing that logo just a little bit to accommodate the expectations of the target audience. Okay, problem and an app solution. That's fantastic. Good job. I think after app solution might be a good time to introduce your functions and features, then your research findings, and then your target audience. Okay, then go into competition because you're right now you're talking about your app, so we might as well continue talking about media dive in terms of its functions and features, its and then giving your research findings, target audience, then jumping to comparative analysis. I just think maybe grouping it like that together, it might make a little more sense because right now we go introduction to your app, then we go into competition, then we go back to your app. You see what I'm saying? So think about grouping there. Okay, main features, that's excellent. Target audience, nice job. Images, don't forget images. We've got some really wonderful setup here, good grid usage. Presentation looks fantastic, but we've got a couple of pages where there's no images, and subsequently those pages, it seems like this page right here, the text has gotten much longer because you don't have images there, but you're breaking the grid there, so I would recommend keeping the text boxes a consistent width, and then just consider adding images over here to the main features and the target audience. But it seems like 40 is really super young for this target. You're saying 15 to 40. First of all, I think that a lot of target audience for apps start at 18, and the reason is because typically you have to be 18 to download them, but that doesn't mean that you can't have parents involved in this as well, but you haven't mentioned that in any of your preliminary work. So think about that target audience right here as it applies to the requirement to being adult to download several apps, and then also the 40 seems really, really young. I mean, even thinking of music and media, boy, I would take this clear up to 70s. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is typically you want to mention lower and middle income, or we call it lower income or middle income, or we call it, income levels as opposed to class levels, because that kind of indicates when you say higher class individuals, it creates some connotations that are not associated with the app itself. So saying things like low class and high class can offer supplemental meanings other than an income bracket. So I recommend in your target audience, use the term lower income, middle income, and higher income, as opposed to lower, middle, and higher class. Okay, persona one. Personas I think are really excellent. Great job on your personas. Scenario. All right, now here's where it gets a little funny. So let me describe. Scenario is how the user is going to interact with the app, right? Giving a situation where the user can take the app and solve a problem that exists without the app, okay? Then you go to storyboards. Now the storyboard should be a storyboard of the scenario itself. What you have is a storyboard of the tasks that the user will take. So these aren't really storyboards. I think it would be really interesting for you to include this with the storyboard. But right above here, I would include a linear narrative of a storyboard that just says how Brandon is presented with the problem, okay, and how he pulls out the app to rectify the problem. Or another way of doing it is giving a little linear narrative without the app, presenting the problem, and then give a linear narrative with the app, showing how the app rectifies the problem. Then I think that would be great to include this little step here. But you want to include a storyboard that stories out the scenario, okay? Not the steps the user takes to address the tasks used to overcome the problem situation, but the actual problem situation itself. Then I think, as I said, I think including this in conjunction with those storyboards would be a great idea. Here's scenario 2, images. Don't forget your images. And then the same thing here. Map out that storyboard. So give us a linear narrative showing this individual going through this scenario. Okay, then, as I said, I think it would be great in addition to show the steps taken within the app to accommodate the tasks needed to overcome the problems situated in the scenario. Okay, wireframes. These aren't necessarily wireframes. I think these are great for task flows, but these aren't wireframes. And wireframes are just the screen itself, all of your screens. Okay, so you're not showing any clicking or any tasks being accomplished with the wireframes. Wireframes are just all the screens. Okay, these are called task flows, and I think this would be great to include these as task flows just by saying right here, say, okay, here's the task, list the task, and then show how it's being accommodated. All right, same thing here, another task flow. All right, you see what I'm saying? All right, then. And the wireframes, as I said, are just a depiction of all the screens. Now, wireframes are required in the process book to be in sketch form, but as I recommended, I recommend including sketches and digital renderings of your wireframes for interest's sake, right? Okay, wireframes comes in user prototype, good shots, nice job, and then user testing, great job here. Good stuff. One recommendation when you're photographing your user testing, use ambient light. Right now it looks like the light is coming from the window. So we got a lot of shadows here. See the shadows on the actual interface screen, and then shadows over here. And then we've got this floral background. Typically what I would recommend is taking a piece of white foam core or presentation board, placing it down on the table and turning on some ambient light so you don't have these harsh shadows. It's not bad. I mean, it's great. It shows the intent. That's fantastic. These are just kind of suggestions I recommend, in any kind of photograph of any presentation. So user test 1 is great. Okay, user test 1. Yes, it's test up to excellent. Create a new account immediate. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great job on your user testing. Okay, so where do we go from here? Really nice work, by the way. So let me see, we've got personas, we got scenarios, storyboards, task flows. You could possibly consider including a sitemap. Summaries. Oh, yeah, the written summary. You've got your written summaries. I would really, really try to be thorough on the written summary of the analyzing the test results. You've got some feedback right here. So yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. If you can get a little more deep, you can fit more detail into the feedback. User status you would love. And also describe your findings, not only user feedback, but describe your findings. Okay, so did anybody get it wrong where they were asked well, you don't tell them where to click, right? You give them a task to say, okay, where would you click to set up your user profile? So decide and record whether users got the tasks right in terms of following the commands on their own to be able to complete the task. Okay. Mock-ups. Screen mock-ups. I think it would be great to show screen mock-ups for your app. You don't have to show all of the screens like you do in a wireframe, but it would be great to show a few mock-ups, digital mock-ups of your screens, because that way the viewer actually gets a feel for what the screen is going to look like. I don't know, are these digital mock-ups? I'm not sure. I think that I guess these could be. I'm thinking a little bit light on graphics here. Plus, this logo doesn't match the logo that you've developed, so that's a consideration. It's not that important in your wireframes, but it is important in your screen mockups. Your screen mockups should look exactly like what the actual app looks like, the design of the app itself, not just the wireframe functions, but how the, what colors are using, what little images are using, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you see what I'm saying? And for a good look at mockups, you can take a look at the treehouse example that was supplied for you. Project summary. Need a project summary, bibliography, including research for images and your research sources. So, and then one thing I don't see is your research findings page. So we want to include that research findings page as well, which really kind of sets up your demographics, which of course your research findings set up your demographics, demographics set up your target audience sets up your profiles, and then your profile set up your scenarios, right? Target audience sets up your personas set up your scenarios. So think about setting up your research page. Okay. All right. Other than that, I think you're looking really fantastic. So almost there. How is the click-through prototype coming along? That's due this week, by the way, week 4. So, all right, great job. Any questions at all? Please let me know. Thank you.